Have you ever wondered what happens when a nation stops asking for permission to survive? For decades, the narrative surrounding the Sahel has been one of despair, dust, and dependency. We were told that this land was too dry, its people too poor, and its future too bleak to exist without the golden handcuffs of Western aid. But today, a different sound is echoing across the plains of Burkina Faso. It is not the sound of a diplomat's briefcase opening or the scratch of a pen on a World Bank loan agreement. It is the roar of water rushing into 50,000 acres of newly carved irrigation channels. This is not just a farming project. It is a strategic declaration of war against the very idea of African inferiority. While the global financial elite in Washington and Brussels warn of economic collapse, Captain Ibrahim Traore has answered with a shovel and a masterstroke of engineering that is sending shock waves through the halls of the IMF. He has realized a truth that the West hoped would remain buried in the sand. He who controls the water controls the future. The World Bank is stunned because this $120 million domestic investment bypasses every traditional lever of control they have used for 60 years. They see 50,000 acres of green sprouts. Traore sees 50,000 acres of freedom. This is the moment the white savior industry realizes its services are no longer required. For the veterans and the thinkers watching this, you know that true security does not come from a foreign military base or a high-interest credit line. It comes from the ability to feed your own children from your own soil. If you believe that a nation's dignity begins with the ground it owns and the water it guards, press like right now and stand with us as we uncover how one man is redrawing the map of African power. But as the desert begins to turn green under this bold defiance, a much darker question arises. How far will the global establishment go to stop a success story they didn't authorize? To understand why the World Bank is so deeply unsettled, one must first understand the architecture of the aid trap that has held the Sahel captive for over half a century. For decades, Western institutions and international NGOs have dictated the terms of African development from climate-controlled boardrooms in Washington. They told the people of Burkina Faso that their land was a victim of geography, too arid to be productive, too harsh to be self-reliant. The solution they offered was always the same: more loans, more high-interest debt, and more consultants who ensured that every drop of water came with a price tag attached to foreign interests. This was a system designed to manage poverty, not to end it, to provide a band-aid while ensuring the patient remained too weak to walk away. But Captain Ibrahim Traore has flipped the script, moving from a position of controlled survival to one of aggressive sovereignty. He understands that for an African leader, the greatest threat to national security isn't just an external army. It is a dependency on foreign wheat and foreign approval. This 50,000-acre irrigation drive is the ultimate act of rebellion because it breaks the fundamental rule of the old order. It proves that the desert can be mastered without Western permission. Traore's philosophy is simple yet profound. Our soil will no longer be audited from abroad. Consider the story of Musa, a 65-year-old farmer in the Bagre region. For 30 years, he watched his ancestral land turn to dust while waiting for an NGO-led project that never quite arrived, or that collapsed the moment the foreign funding dried up. Today, Musa doesn't see a suit-and-tie consultant on his farm. He sees the Burkina Faso Military Engineering Corps working alongside local youth. They aren't there to discuss sustainability in abstract terms. They are there to build dams and solar-powered pumps that belong to the people, not the creditors. This is the human face of Traore's masterstroke, turning a desperate population into a disciplined workforce that views every newly irrigated acre as a reclaimed piece of their own dignity. The logic is clear. By bypassing the World Bank's debt-driven models, Traore is removing the leash that has long allowed the West to steer the direction of this nation. We often speak of independence in our history books, especially in the West. But true freedom is written in the dirt and measured in the liters of water a man can secure for his own family without begging for a loan. If you see the profound strength in this quiet revolution of the soil, tell me what freedom means to you in the comments below. This is not a mere gardening project or a simple agricultural initiative. This is a strategic fortress of the soul, a 50,000-acre battlefield where the chains of colonial dependency are being ground into the dust. To the cold, calculating eyes of the global financial elite, these are just numbers on a spreadsheet. But for the people of Burkina Faso, this is a high-stakes war for the very right to exist. Every irrigation channel being carved into the sun-scorched earth of the Sahel is a vein of life, pumping the blood of defiance back into a nation that was told it was too poor, too dry, and too weak to survive without a Western master. Ibrahim Traore is not just planting seeds, he is planting a revolution of dignity that is shattering the century-old myth that Africa must beg for its daily bread. The architecture of this green empire is built with the precision of an elite military strike and the heart of a father protecting his children. Traore has replaced the hollow promises of Western consultants with the iron discipline of the Burkina Faso Military Engineering Corps. Instead of waiting for high-interest loans that only serve to tighten the noose of debt, the people are using their own hands, their own solar technology, and their own unbreakable will to turn the desert into a lush, productive paradise. This is the ultimate industrial replacement, a strategic masterstroke that moves beyond mere protest and into the realm of absolute productive power. Look at the sheer defiant scale of this drive. When these 50,000 acres are fully vibrant and green, they will form a food shield that no foreign sanction can penetrate and no IMF threat can pierce. While the Western world finds itself paralyzed by crumbling supply chains and the rot of inflation, Burkina Faso is anchoring its future in the one asset that cannot be seized by a foreign bank, the sovereign soil of the motherland. This is the moment the white savior industry realizes its game is over. The David of the Sahel has finally found his sling, and it is made of water, solar power, and the sweat of a free people. The geopolitical inversion occurring here is nothing short of historic. For a century, the West played the role of the provider, using food as a silent weapon to dictate policy and extract resources. Now the roles are being violently reversed. Under the Traore doctrine, the Sahel is no longer a consumer of foreign leftovers. It is becoming the master of its own harvest. The sight of vast, verdant fields stretching across what was once a wasteland is a visual rebuke to every expert in Washington and Brussels who claimed Africa was a lost cause. It is proof that when you remove the leash of foreign aid, a nation doesn't fall. It finally learns how to run. This battlefield is about more than just rice or maize. It is about the divine right of a people to control their own destiny. Every solar-powered pump that hums in the desert is a drumbeat of independence, signaling the end of the era of the beggar. Traore is treating this development not as a series of bureaucratic meetings, but as a total victory of the human spirit over the cruelty of the desert and the arrogance of the old world order. Which part of this transformation hits you the hardest? Is it the sheer, massive scale of the reclaimed land, or the fact that it is being accomplished without a single drop of poison from a Western loan? Your silence has been expelled. Your voice is needed now. Write your thoughts below. Let the world know you see the truth, and stand with those who refuse to kneel any longer. From the inside of this movement, the youth of Burkina Faso do not view Captain Ibrahim Traore as a mere politician or a transient military leader. They see him as the chief architect of their dignity. To the young men and women in the streets of Ouagadougou and the fields of Bagre, these 50,000 acres are a tangible rebuttal to the colonial lie that Africa cannot govern itself or master its own environment. This is a generation that has grown tired of being a blind spot for global powers. They are watching a leader who wears the same fatigues as his soldiers, standing in the mud alongside farmers, proving that the distance between the palace and the plow has finally vanished. However, with this success comes a predictable and dangerous shadow. History suggests that whenever an African nation moves toward true self-reliance, the global establishment responds not with applause, but with silent sabotage. We can predict that as this water shield grows, the West may attempt to weaponize international regulations or environmental standards to delegitimize Burkina Faso's progress. They fear a domino effect, where the agricultural success in the Sahel inspires a total walkout from the debt-driven models of the past. But the momentum is already shifting. This irrigation model is not staying within Burkina Faso's borders. It is becoming the blueprint for the entire AES alliance. As Mali and Niger look toward their own desert landscapes, they see Traore's masterstroke as the key to a unified, self-sufficient Africa. This is the birth of a bloc that values its own soil more than a foreign credit rating. If you believe that the spirit of self-reliance is more powerful than any sanction, share this story with someone who needs to see the truth. Where do you think the next breakthrough will happen? This agricultural breakthrough represents a moral climax in the story of modern Africa, as it directly challenges the deep-seated white savior narrative that has dominated global media for decades. For over a century, the world was taught to view the African continent as a charity case, a place that could not survive without the intellectual and financial guidance of the West. By executing a 50,000-acre irrigation masterstroke with domestic labor and local engineering, Ibrahim Traore is shattering the racist stereotype that African leaders are incapable of complex, long-term strategic planning. This isn't just about growing rice or maize. It is a middle finger to the industrial complex that profits from African dependency. Traore's leadership style provides a stark contrast to the distant, bureaucratic nature of Western-backed politicians. He is often seen in the dirt, wearing the same fatigues as his soldiers, proving that true authority is earned through shared struggle, not foreign appointments. This clean intelligence revolution signals to the world that Africa is no longer a blind spot or a passive recipient of aid, but a proactive architect of its own destiny. The contrast is becoming impossible for the global audience to ignore. A fading, debt-ridden West is increasingly preoccupied with internal decline, while a lean, hungry, and focused African leadership is rising from the sand. This project proves that when the white savior leaves the room, the African people don't fail. They finally begin to build. The roots of a tree do not ask for permission to grow from the soil that sustains them. If you see the strength in this rebirth of dignity, subscribe now to follow the harvest of a new continent. We must recognize that the control of water in the heart of the Sahel is not merely a technical achievement. It is the ultimate anchor of national security and the final death knell for foreign intervention. Ibrahim Traore understands a fundamental truth that the Old World powers have spent decades trying to suppress. A nation that can feed itself can never be truly conquered. By transforming 50,000 acres of parched desert into a vibrant green shield, he is doing more to protect his people than 1,000 foreign military bases or a mountain of Western security aid ever could. This is a strategic masterstroke that turns the tide of the silent war for Africa, proving that the greatest weapon against instability isn't a foreign drone. It is a sovereign harvest. As we stand at this historic crossroads, the contrast could not be more jarring. While the once mighty Western powers find themselves tangled in the webs of their own bureaucratic decay and crumbling infrastructure, Burkina Faso is rising from the dust with the lean, hungry energy of a lion. The World Bank and the IMF, those aging giants of global control, are witnessing their leverage vanish in real time. They are shocked because they never planned for a leader who treats national development not as a series of begging sessions, but as a total victory of the human spirit over the cruelty of the desert. Traore has shown that the African dream doesn't need a Western stamp of approval. It only needs the sweat of its people and the wisdom to guard its own resources. This is a call to historical justice, a sacred declaration that the soil of Africa belongs to those who bleed for it, not those who audit it from climate-controlled boardrooms in Washington. Traore is planting the seeds of a new world where dignity is the primary currency and self-reliance is the only path to peace. The green empire he is building is a lighthouse for every nation in the global south that is tired of being told they aren't ready for independence. It is a reminder to every American and Canadian watching that the values we hold dear, liberty, hard work, and the right to self-determination, are being fought for and won in the most unlikely of places. Burkina Faso is no longer a country waiting for a savior. It is a nation that has found its own strength in the very earth beneath its feet. As this revolution of the soil expands, it stands as a monument to what is possible when a leader puts his boots in the mud alongside his soldiers and farmers. The era of the beggar is dead. The era of the architect has begun. If this story of quiet defiance and the triumph of human spirit touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes Africa is a lost cause. If you still believe that justice, dignity, and a rising nation are worth standing for, press like and subscribe to join us on this record of history. May we all find the courage to protect our own soil and the wisdom to control our own destiny.